All right, welcome back. So we're going to talk a little bit about Loomis and the planes of the face. So if I've got a basic Loomis head, or even if I don't have to use Loomis necessarily. Let's say I use the modified egg shape. So I could get to this egg shape using Loomis, or I can get to the egg shape just by drawing an egg. It doesn't really matter that way. So this is my basic egg shape right through here. And again, if I'd drawn this from a Loomis head, I would have started with a circle, and the circle would have been, maybe somewhere through here like that. The circle usually goes through the top lip if we wanted to, if we're already imagining where the lip would go. Or it's the fact that, if the reason it's easier with Loomis is because you can start with the circle, and then you can take the circle and cut it in half for the brow line. You can then go ahead and 1/3 of that, which is 1/6 hairline, take the up to here, which would be the same distance as that. That's for the ball of the nose line. So again, for Loomis, this makes a lot of sense. But you could use this for any old. I could start this with an oval. Start with the eyes, add the eyebrows. I could go at it that way. It doesn't matter. But what we're thinking about is the basic planes of the face. And so let's just say we have a neck, which will be, again, we're just going to put the neck on here, which is just going to be normally it would be a cylinder, but we're going to block it out. We're going to turn this into blocks. And the reason we do that is it helps us to understand where we're going to shade, the plane changes we're looking for on the head. Okay, so let's just say this is my, I guess we can just jump in, we can just start on this. This would be a basic, this is the eyes, nose. The ears are between the nose and the brow line, so this would be a very simple ear. This over here, again, a very simple ear. Something about like that. So again, we'd have that. Then we have, again, now if it's Loomis, again, we would have cut this with a very, very thin ellipse. And basically, what we're looking for is the smile, because that hits the ocular cavities. Now again, there's other ways of doing that. We can do the dividing it into 8 and all these other sorts of things. There's all these different ideas. As long as we can find the ocular cavity, I could have come over here and made the eyes, and then taken half an eye space and pushed it out. Doesn't matter how we do it, but it's the idea that this is sometimes called the visor, which is basically you take the ocular cavities and you'll come up over the nose, and it makes it look like sunglasses. And that's a very important plane because it contains the ocular cavities, and it contains the glabella. So that's great stuff. So again, that's definitely a basic plane. We would then come down. Now for the nose, we're going to block this nose out, just like we talked about on the construction. So it's going to really be just sort of a modified pyramid. I guess technically it's a modified wedge, I guess, if we want to get it, use the correct language or what. So this again is going up, across the bridge and back down, and this is the underside. So those are, that's a pretty important plane. The nose, right? We need to know where the nose is, all that good stuff. If we really got into this, then we go, yeah, well, not only the nose, but we've got the glabella up there, and the glabella is at a different angle, and the eyes are deeper. So it's just this basic idea of knowing where these different planes are. Now there's another couple planes that are very, very important that we want to look for. And again, this would come down here. Anyways, this is, we could block this out. This is a little more round. Well, that's okay. We don't have to have everything blocked out. But it's this idea that if you take an arc through the cheek and bring it down to the chin, this is the basic side plane. And then if you took this from the arc up it comes over the brow just a little bit, but this is the basic side plane of the head. This whole thing here is the side of that head. All of it. And again, this is the side of the head. So it's this idea of being able to understand that this is, this is again going around the planes of the head. And again, same thing with the neck. This is the front plane of the neck. This is the left side plane and the right side plane. Got that off just a little bit. What have you. But these are the basic planes of the head. The very basic, general planes of the head. And again, this would be deeper. This would be the ocular cavity. And we've got the ocular cavity here too. And this is just, again, these are the most basic fundamental planes of the head. If we don't have those defined, it's not going to look flat as a pancake. So again, the planes become very important when we're drawing stuff to make them look 3D. And so you can start to think of, how can I light this if this is going up and this is going over and that's going down, and light was from this side, that means this would be darker and this would be casting a shadow, and this would, you can start to, if we understand the planes, you can start to then deal with the planes of the head. And then this would be the front forehead, part of the forehead, and this would be the top of the head where the hairline is. So this would be a slightly different value than this. If the light was coming from here, this would be lighter, this would be a little darker. Plus there's all the subtlety of stuff going on in there. Same thing with this same thing with the neck, right? There'd be a cast shadow on the neck. So we'd have a cast shadow hitting on this neck somewhere along here. This is a left side plane, so that would be a different value than this. This is a side plane, so it would be back, and in other words, darker than this. If the light was on this side, this would be darker, and again, this would be a cast shadow, but even the cast shadow has to go over planes. So let's say if this is from the lit side here, let's say we have, this is darker, this then changes planes, and whenever you change planes, you change values. So this is lighter, though still a cast shadow. And then this is the furthest from the light, so let's say that's even darker still. So again, this is how you understand the way light goes over planes, is that anytime there's a change in plane, there's a change of direction, there's a change of value. And if you're painting, then there's also a change of color, hue, chroma, all that good stuff. Now, the one thing we didn't put on here yet is we didn't put the lips. If we put some basic lips on here, we have another couple planes. So if you have this being the lips, we're just going to come up, over, and down for this. And if this is the bottom lip, down and then up, you could break this into more planes, but in terms of what we've just done, we basically have to add a little more information. There's more plane changes. There's a little more subtlety going on. So this would be coming, it's a flat lip going in. This is the lip coming out, projects out. And we think of it almost like stair steps. This would be underneath the lip, so it's going down, and that would be darker. And then we have the chin that would be further forward and lighter. All that good stuff. So again, we have the basic planes of the head. And again, if this was lit from the right, then everything on this side, including the ear, would be darker, though the ear would be on a different plane than the side of the head. So the ear would be a little bit lighter, in theory. Now you can get reflected light. There's other things that can actually interrupt those relationships slightly. But you'd say, okay, this side is in shadow, and therefore, and there'd be a cast shadow onto the chest and the shoulder and so forth and so on. But this is the idea of planes. So if we come over here, same thing, we've got planes. If we're using, again, the Loomis, you could start off, again, very gently with that circle, right? So we'd have the circle like so, and then if we modified it, we'd say, okay, well, look, we've got this is the plate that's equal distant in there, because it's supposed to be a true profile, or close to it. Yeah, this is true profile. Where this hits, this is the This is where the ocular cavity touches. We could then go, okay, well, this doesn't quite, because heads are not always exactly circular. So this breaks off and the circle, and we end up with, this comes down for the glabella, this comes and projects outward for the nose, and then back and inward for the nose. And then we have the lips, which projects out, and then it comes back for the front lip, or pardon me, the top lip. And then we have it project out for the bottom lip. And then we have it project here, and then it comes down over the, over the chin, and we have those basic shapes. This is again our basic ear shape. This is the neck coming back. There. This is, now again, we could take this into planes where this comes up, and then this kind of flattens out a tiny bit, comes to there, and to there, and then that comes down and around, and then it tucks in, and then that comes down and transitions onto into the neck, and then out onto the trapezius. But we can start to go, okay, there's a plane change here. This is the side of the head, so that circle is the side of the head, which is where the ear would be. The ear, in fact, is in the lower quadrant. If we take a line like there, the ear is always in the lower quadrant in this position. Again, we would have the eyeglasses or the ocular cavities. Now from the side, we can actually see this bean shape that starts to happen because of the shape of the ocular cavity. But again, there would be our sunglasses, major plane change. We would then have, now I'm showing a plane on the nose, but if it was true profile, you wouldn't see this. I'm just showing that yes, there's a side, but if he's in true profile, that would disappear because you wouldn't be able to see the side of that. So this would be the underside of the nose, right? We then have, we come from the ear is where this is supposed to start from. So we come from the ear through the cheekbone and down onto the side of the chin. And where this meets the circle, that's the cheekbone. And then this comes actually around here just a little bit up the brow. And then this would be so this is all the side plane, all through here, and the ear is, of course, now the ear is at a slightly different angle, but the ear is on that side plane. So this right here is the entire side plane of the face. Okay, then this would be the right side, this would be the left side, this is the front facing plane, this is the back facing plane, and this is the side plane. So again, still planes, and again, now again, this mouth got a little wide, this arc probably got a little much, this it doesn't touch. Does it have to touch the mouth? Well, technically you might say, well, it depends on who you're talking to. I would say not necessarily. So maybe this, the one over here should have been drawn with this, this line over here a little bit more. No big deal. But it's this idea that we're just thinking plane. So this is the top plane, it goes back for the lip. This is the bottom that projects out, so that's going to be in light. This is underneath there, that's in shadow. And if you want to get technical, you actually have the top of the chin versus the front side of the chin, and suddenly you get an extra plane. So you can actually start breaking these major planes into minor planes. We're not going to get really into that right now at this very moment, but it's this idea that there are these basic planes of the head. There's actually, because of the trapezius muscle, there's a plane that comes down here, right side plane. This is part of the trapezius. The trapezius is the side plane, so that's this sort of shape. And then now this person, again, if they're in true profile, we may not see much or any of the front side plane, but you might see a little bit on the trachea of that front side where this would all be side. So the trapezius and the side of the trachea and the connecting tissue would all be that side plane. So this right here, I'm going to try to connect this over to there, and this here is our entire side plane of a profile head, right? So yeah, thinking in basic planes. And again, now we can start to have something that looks, oh, and now this is the right side plane, and it's changing direction. So yes, it would be a different value. If the light was coming from over here, this would be the darkest of the three planes. But we want to think of, hey, if this light's coming from here, this would be the lightest, this would be the middle value or medium values, and this would be the shadows would be along that plane. So again, understanding the planes where they are, very, very important, so we know where to look for shadow transitions. Or if we're doing it from our imagination, we know that we've got to invent something that looks like it is accurate. Let's say this is my cast shadow through there or something. This is casting a shadow down onto the neck like that or something. Okay, so again, we can start to visualize where the shadows are. Okay, let's do a 3/4 view. All right, and again, again, I really like Loomis for the 3/4 view. The profile and stuff, there's lots of construction methods, and there's a lot of really good construction methods, isn't it? I just do Loomis because I use it with a combination with some other construction methods I learned earlier on. But the ones I learned were more loosey-goosey. They weren't near as structured, and they didn't end up being as good as Loomis. So that's why I really like Loomis. It's for a construction method, it's really nice. Especially if you're someone who's in the mindset where you're looking for, explanations, you're very analytical. Loomis brings just all kinds of wonderful things by using it that makes it easier, essentially. So I could start with that circle. If you want to get into the whole thing, we're like, all right, then I've got to do my center line. You could do, and we could go ahead and go, okay, here's my center line through there, and then from my center line, I'm going to go ahead and put my circle on here that's cutting. Actually, let's bring this in a little bit more. So let's say this is then my ellipse, and then from the ellipse you could find the center of the ellipse and where it comes across the head. And this person, let's see, I think we're seeing a little bit more actually of the top of the head, so I think we should be doing this, but whatever. So we could go ahead and bring across this would actually be where this transitions. You'd bring this up here to that hits there, bring that over for the nose line, bring this to where that hits there, bring that over for the, for the center of this, bring this up to that hits there, that comes across for the eyebrows, so forth and so on. So you got the bottom of this coming here, that hits there, changes the same direction as that. That's about where the nose is. And so again, we could go ahead and construct this very quickly. And I'm just going to put down a very simple head shape for Loomis. I've done a bunch of Loomises, so they're fairly easy once you've done a lot of them. This is again above so this is above here, and this is just my ear shape. I don't really care right now about the ear, other than it's just there. We're not going to define the ears. It's like, okay, yeah, there's an ear sort of shape here. And we go, okay. And then we're going to go, okay, we got the back of the head coming in there. And we could go ahead and, what's really fun, there used to be a time where you very, very inexpensively buy these styrofoam heads that people used to put wigs on for holding wigs. This will be the neck coming into the shoulder, neck, far shoulder, and you could use that because they have a very nice Loomis look to them, and you could use them for drawing and studying the basic planes of the head. So this is the basic of the throat, the neck, front side of the neck, side of the neck. We could go in here and go, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create the sunglasses. This is here. And you might go, well, where's the nose? Well, again, we would go ahead and let's say we did the center line. And we go, okay, let's just, this is 3/4. So how do I know, where the eyes are and these different sorts of things? There's different ways of doing it, right? But let's just say that I could go, okay, this is from here to here, which is, where this is actually supposed to be there we go. That's coming. So whatever. This is the ball of the nose. But if we say, well, underneath there we got a little bit of that, and if we took this distance, so this is turned all the way to the septum, and that's there because the septum is always below this line, and we go, oh, we cut that in half. Well, that's about the bottom of the ocular cavity. So at least I know, well, the ocular cavities are coming across here like this, And again, if you've drawn a lot of these, you can guess. If I can't, if I go, look, if I took this and we divide these down, now the ocular cavity, normally from the drawing the skull, if you haven't drawn the skull, that's coming. But what we're going to find, there's a certain proportion. So if I took this distance, it's almost, and hit here, it should be 1 3/4 of that space, or depending on the 3/4 view, it foreshortens more, and you'll start to get a little bit more aware of that. But I'm just saying I can go, okay, this right here is about where the ocular cavities I'm guesstimating are going to be, which is pretty good. It looks very much like the skull. And if we're going to have the glabella, which the glabella is actually up here doing this. So, and it's in perspective, well, then it's at least probably about the 3/4 mark because of foreshortening. Again, this would then come down. This would then project out. And I could very quickly build a nose. Now again, this is just a mannequin, so I'm not worried about this being exact, but I am building this off the basic idea of a Loomis head, so it looks human adjacent. And so we've got the two planes of the nose. We got the glabella right here. We've got the the bridge and so forth and so on. And this is the far side of the nose, and this is this side of the nose, and this is this side of the nose. And so yeah, and maybe if we actually had, I don't think this one, if we do, we'd see ever so gently, we might see just ever so gently that opposing side of the nose. But anyway, so we could go ahead and go, all right, well now we've got this, and now this is going to be on the other side there. And again, I could go ahead and very quickly create the sunglasses, if you will, for that plane. From here, we'd actually bring this out, bring this in, and I'm just going to project, because the muzzle, the mouth projects. The teeth are in front of the chin. And the muzzle is in front of the middle of this. So if I drop this line, I drop this, this should be in front of that or further to the left, ever so gently, all that good stuff. So now we've got, again, just a basic, kind of like these guys, we've got the nose. I don't have the mouth on yet, but we've got the very basic ideas of a Loomis head, basic planes. I could then bring this down. Now you could use this line because the face projects. Use the same angle because the face projects to try to position the mouth. If we took this in half, that should be about the bottom of the bottom lip. And if we took this is probably going to be almost 2/3 or something like that of the remaining space. So again, I could very quickly build a very simple mouth. This person has a very full mouth. This is not somebody with a thin mouth. And it seems like the top lips are even thicker than the bottom, which is a little bizarre, but we're going to go ahead and say this is our basic, mouth. Again, this is the underside here. This is the, going back, and so it's going into shadow. This is projecting out. This then is projecting back, so it's in shadow. And then we've got the chin, where we have the top part of the chin, and then we have the chin going back. So we have the top part of the chin, and you have basically the side of the chin, but it's going just a little bit of an angle, so it'd be going back. So that's kind of our stair step that we kind of get through this thing. And then from here we'd go from the ear down through there. And again, this one would be around the corner, but we'd still be catching just ever so gently a little bit of that side plane over here on the left side. So again, this is for if we have the light coming from this side, or let's say we have the light coming from this side. All of a sudden, this would be the lit side, this would be our middle values, and this little bit of the far side would be the darkest. That'd be our shadow side. So it's just, so all of a sudden, again, we've got this coming up and over the head. This is going to come up over the brow a little bit. This is the top for, again, where we have the top of the forehead versus the top of the head. We got all that good stuff. Again, we have the planes here Again, very basic planes. If you want to, you could actually start doing subplanes, but that's where you, okay, where's the septum? And you start breaking the nose down, and you break the lips down into 3 planes, and all of a sudden you bring the muzzle in, and you know, if you bring the muzzle in, well, all of a sudden again you have to break the lips into 3 planes along the philtrum, and then you bring that down along the little muscle of the mouth, and then this breaks this into 3 planes: a front plane, a left side plane, a right side plane. And then these, you know, so you could do much more finite sorts of planes. So again, you could start to put the philtrum on the underside of the ball, start to put in a little bit of the nostril, put in the you know, the side of the, you know, of the nose. You could start breaking this down. This would then break down to here. This would then have a little bit of the far nostril. You could start, you know, this would be the ball, and that would be sort of doing this, and this would come onto the. So you could really start to break these planes down. All of a sudden, this is like a big secondary plane. Is that this is at a different angle and much more to the side than this. So it's basically, it comes along the cheek to the corner of the jaw, and that becomes again a major plane. And then all of a sudden you start getting into this, where you start breaking this into. If they're a male, they have the brow ridge, and then if they're a male, you have the front of the forehead, coming from like where the eyes are, bring that up and arc through. So like where the corners of the eye are, bring that up, and all of a sudden this is the front, or what's called the frontalis. So even on your forehead, you have again a front, a left, and a right, and then this is more extreme on the side as it wraps around. So you could start getting into all kinds of little planes. Now sometimes people will see Loomis and they're like, "What's he doing?" And in his more advanced planes, he's just breaking things down sort of along the anatomy, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly fine, but it's a little bit more. It's not as rigid. There's another method that's in this class towards the end. It's an advanced method called Loomis, and Loomis really gets into the locking in the planes and the plane changes, and they start to line up to musculature and skeletal landmarks on the face. Riley, once it's a little disconcerting. So if you don't understand Loomis, repeat Loomis until you understand it. Don't try Riley until you really know Loomis backwards and forwards. But once you know Loomis backwards and forwards, well, then you can go ahead again and try Riley. And Riley again just breaks down all kinds of subplanes that again are slightly different for each and every person. But if you know where those planes are, man, it just takes your head drawing to the next level. So again, these are just the basic planes of the face. I would hope that you would play with this. Just basically draw some Loomis heads, and then start trying to break down the basic planes. The major planes would be, you know, the sunglasses, underside of the nose, the flat lip, which is going back, which is the dark lip, the projection of the top lip, this little where it projects back just underneath the mouth. And then you have the chin, where and usually for the beginning ones, we don't even have the top and bottom. We just do front of the chin, you know. So that's very simple. So this over here. So again, we don't even have the, you know, the top and bottom like over here. Very, very simple. So whether you're just using this one, where again all we're doing is where's the side of the face stop, where's the side of the forehead stop, where are the ocular cavities in the glabella, and the ocular cavities are going to be deeper and darker than the glabella. Where's the underside of the nose, and we also, what's the left, front, and right side of the nose. And this is a very, very, very basic. This is fine for a beginner. Sure, why not? Let's get to those first, and do a bunch of Loomis heads and start putting in the planes. Same thing for a profile. Do lots of profiles. You know, you can do one very quickly. You know, you're like, okay, we're going to do a quick profile. You're just like, okay.
Cut.
This is my basic profile. On there we have the side plane, which would be somewhere about there. We'd have the neck, which would be doing something about like this. We would then have the nose coming out, projecting back onto the face. We would then have the lip, top lip, bottom lip, chin, glabella, And you could say, all right, well, this right here is the basic profile. And then you could say, all right, well, in the side plane shows where we have, again, where the ocular cavity starts. This right here, again, the half through the circle, that's about where the brow is. From the brow to the the nose, not the underside where the septum touches, but where the projection is. Now this projects a little too far, so I'm going to cut some of that nose off, something like that. That's a little bit too under, but whatever. So we'd say, okay, that's the nose. Again, this is the underside of the nose. Halfway between here and here is about where the ocular cavities are. The ocular cavity is going to come up, and it's going to go over the glabella. And so all of a sudden, again, we've got the glasses, we got the underside of the nose. This little lip is going to be just a little bit beyond the nose. This is going to be the underside of the mouth. This is the top of the chin and the chin, and this bottom quadrant is going to be the ear, and then we'd come from the ear to the chin for the side, and we'd come just off the brow a little bit. This would come up and over, and then this would kind of on this plane. This would be, again, not just a top plane versus a side plane, top plane versus a side plane. And so again, we very quickly have the basic planes of the face with a Loomis head. Oh, we got the side of the nose right there too. We could put the side of the nose in, whatever. So we have, again, the basic planes of the face. And it's that easy. So go ahead and try to, and I know when we first started we're like, easy, but it's not that bad. It really is not that bad. And so again, start trying to look for planes as you're drawing your different, heads and things like that on your, you could actually pull up pictures if it's easier to go from a picture. But yeah, go ahead and give that a shot. Try to draw, again, what the side, what these planes are on the head. The profile on this is probably the easiest to start with, and then you could do the front view and the 3/4 view. But that's what we're doing, is we're trying to think of planes. So maybe not being able to see that while I was drawing that. So again, all I did was I drew this really quickly, and so you see it's about the nose down probably, but then we came out, back. So again, this is not a perfect profile. And again, I drew this originally from the circle, and then the circle in the middle, which looks like a dinner plate, came down, came over, put the neck on, and then all we did was we said, all right, well, this is the halfway through the circle. That's where the brow is. The bottom of this inner circle, that's where the nose is. Halfway between the nose and the chin, that's where the lips are. So again, just these basic ideas. And then I dropped this from the ear back here, brought this until this hits the chin. This is the side plane, or the inside of the dinner plate, if you will. And again, this is the side plane. This again, we had this come over just a little bit of that front of that neck, even though I wouldn't see that in true profile. But I'm just trying to think of planes. This is, again, the side plane, left side, left side, left side, left side, side plane, right side plane, right side plane. This is the top plane. This is where the sort of the right side would begin. This over here would kind of be where the left side would begin, and this would be, again, the top side of the head. So again, planes of the head. Try to match them up. Try to have some fun with them. Try to deal with them. It's good stuff that will really help. So, give this a shot. Get creative with it. Until then, you guys have a great day. Take care now. Bye-bye.